Nous allons poursuivre et rebasculer. Tiens, en anglais, je vais accueillir Maria Pergolino, Chief Marketing Officer chez Anaplan. Maria, come on stage. So welcome, Maria. You will be with your experts on stage, so the floor is yours.
Thank you.
Talk about the
Very
tech
excited
trends.
to be here. Hello and thank you. I'm very excited to bring two experts in emerging technologies to the stage today to share not only what is emerging, but what do they think is here to stay and what is just trend. First, I'd like to call to the stage Jack Whyte. He is Anaplan's VP of Engineering, but also somebody that talks to customers every day about these different technologies and how they can be useful in their organizations. Welcome, Jack. Next up, I'd like to invite Andrew Pease. And Andrew is not only Senior Director of Advanced Analytics at Deloitte, but somebody who is so passionate about these topics that he regularly blogs both on the topics of machine learning and AI. Welcome, Andrew. So first, I just want to start, I'm going to kick off quickly and start asking your ideas on some of these technologies that we heard Frank talk about earlier in his keynote, that we just heard mention of in the last presentation, that I think we will continue hearing about all throughout today. The first topic I'd like to hit on, and Jack, maybe you can comment first, is on AI, artificial intelligence. And I know some of our customers, our prospects, they're wondering if AI is going to make some of their role obsolete. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
Thanks, Maria. Good day to you all. So this is obviously a huge topic. From the point of view of Anaplan, the way we view AI, it's really three big pillars. So we think about predictive, we think about optimization, and of course we think about machine learning. Will it make skill sets obsolete? No. But it will change the roles that are key to planning in the enterprise. I think we've seen a lot of people spend enormous amounts of time curating data, managing data, verifying data. I think these technologies are going to take that work away so that professionals actually spend their time making decisions and not having to figure out if their data is actually accurate. So I think it will change the roles, but it won't make them obsolete.
Appreciate that.
Can I maybe add something to that? I agree 100%, Jack. And when people talk about artificial intelligence, I like to think of other A's. And one of the other A's I like to think about is augmented intelligence. That it's not really just some machine telling us what we're going to do, but it's really helping us to do whatever it is we need to do in the planning process, more informed, helping us to take all those pools of data and to intelligently filter them to get to the insights we need in order to effectively activate our plans. I have to tell a story. You mind if I tell a quick story?
No, please.
Okay. It was about how I got here this morning. How many of you took public transportation to get here today? Anyone? Some issues today? Yeah, it was a little bit exciting, right? So I'm a data scientist. I'm a practicing data scientist. I'm also a pragmatic data scientist. So I was using 3 different apps to figure out the best way to get here. I was using Google Maps to figure out the best public transportation. It was the Area B. That was the one that I was supposed to take here. I was checking Waze to figure out if I took a cab, how much time it would take for me to get from Gare du Nord to here. And then I also was checking Uber to see how long it would take for a car to come and get me. Uber was going to take 25 minutes. I said, oh, I can do better than that. I'll take the RER. I go in RER, and of course, the first thing I hear, there's a suspect package, and when's the next train going to leave? Dans 5 minutes. I heard dans 5 minutes 4 times, and I said, okay, I think it's time to abandon this plan, right? So so what was my last plan? And this is about having a plan you can trust. My last plan was to run down here, right? And I knew that my last moment of time, I know how fast I can run and comfortably without coming here in a pool of sweat. And so I took it at that last minute. All right, now's the time I got to get out there and run. The information that I was lacking was obviously when they say it's dans 5 minutes, what does that really mean? That was the little, and I think it's also effectively using augmented intelligence for planning isn't as much knowing what information you have, but also knowing the gaps in your information and quantifying those very well. So anyways, long story, it was a long story, I'm sorry about that. Long story short, if you have that well-informed plan, you know where your data is, you know what data you have, and you know where the gaps in that is, that's really what augmented intelligence is about.
I appreciate that. I also love that we went from artificial to augmented, and I have a favorite A. Mine is Anaplan, so okay. works really well. The next topic that I'd like to ask about, and Andrew, I'll start with you, is on machine learning. And one of the questions that we've gotten from our customers is, does this really work? You know, there's a lot of belief in machine learning, but will it work in disruptive times? And as you know, disruptive times are happening more and more often. So how can we really apply this?
First, a short, sharp answer, mais oui. Yes, it certainly can be used. Now, I would like to qualify that in the sense that, for me, machine learning is a term that's been around since the 50s, at least. And it's a very hyped term now because of the large volumes of data, the increased processing power, and the accessibility of algorithms and data science software to a larger population, which all is a good thing. What I think a lot of times gets forgotten in the whole machine learning story is that machines are stupid. They need to learn, and what do they need to learn more than anything? Even more than, well, they need data, obviously, but they need feedback. And without feedbacks in your machine learning loops, your machines are not going to adapt to emerging trends, to new situations, and the new situations is obviously a very tricky one as well, because if there are unprecedented situations, a machine needs some indications of what to do with that. And so it's not just dumping your data into an algorithm and blindly trusting whatever comes out. I think these machine learning algorithms need to be embedded in landing places in the organizations, decision systems. I'm sure there's an A we can think of that fits into that, where that machine learning needs a very user-intuitive landing spot. And that's what I would say about machine learning.
Thank you. Jack, I know machine learning is something you are passionate about, think about a lot. When is it best applied? Is disruptive times the right time?
I mean, certainly I'd agree with all things Andrew says. I mean, in actual fact, I would argue that machine learning in quiet times is actually less valuable to you than it is in disruptive times. To the point about a feedback loop, you are looking to teach the machines the greatest risk and opportunity moments, and they happen more in disruptive times than they do in the calm periods. So in the past, you'll be aware of this, Andrew, that you would do a machine learning study, you'd go away, you may or may not find something, and then perhaps you'd leave it alone for 6 months. And then you'd come back and you'd revisit that. That's not going to cut it anymore. In actual fact, machine learning needs to happen fast. It needs to be happening all the time. And when you've created a model and you're happy with that model, you have to challenge it constantly. Otherwise, it will go stale. So machine learning, the way I see this, especially with disruptive times, is it has to be as close to your decision as you can possibly make it. It can't wait weeks. It has to be live.
Perfect. I know, Andrew, you had just mentioned data a few times. You're talking about how you want to be able to leverage it faster. The next question I want to bring up is around big data and some concern almost to the opposite of what we've been talking about, that now all of this data is going to make the planner's job just overwhelming. It's going to take so much time. And I'm curious, and Jack, maybe you can start here, is this manageable? Is this changing our jobs maybe for the worse?
It's certainly changing things, and it is becoming difficult. I think we're past the point now where any single individual can know the meaning of all the data in their enterprise. It's just not possible. And another really important change that we have to pay attention to, and I know at Anaplan we care a lot about this, is data is moving from large amounts of volume stored information to being live and streamed. And when you're in a situation where the data is coming at you more quickly than you can learn, if you don't have the right tools to make sense of it, you'll be behind. So the challenge with big data is going to be how you get meaning and summary and intelligence from it much more quickly than it's coming in. And that's going to require a lot of automation, a lot of CPUs. And this is where cloud-based tools really come in, right? Because a cloud, by definition, scales. So if you need a huge amount of compute to crunch your big data, you're not going to do it on premises. You're going to do it in the cloud. So from our point of view, we think this is a great opportunity for Anaplan, but yeah, it's going to change things.
Yeah, I think that's indeed one of the big things that's changed recently, and why machine learning is such a hype topic right now is because cloud is enabling a lot of things that just weren't possible before. It used to be you had to throw whatever data you wanted to analyze down onto a data platform, usually internally, and that all takes time, and that really decreases the ability to act on trends as they're happening. You mentioned streaming data, obviously, and in situ analytics to really analyze data on the edge. Maybe some of that is data you want to store anyways.
Yeah.
That's one important decision. You take that data, do you want to throw that into a database for later analysis? But you also want to be able to do certain types of analytics on that stream itself to really determine, is there something critical happening that we need to react to? And so I fully agree that cloud is really the next phase in doing that. And maybe it's also worth mentioning some of the sort of hesitation that organizations have going into the cloud. And I think being here in Europe, where GDPR has originated, I think that's certainly something we need to take into consideration, but it's a good consideration. It means people are going to be waking up to what kind of data is being used, the potential of that data, perhaps even some of the pitfalls of that data. And everybody being more in tune with that means that more people are going to be open to using that kind of data in certain well-defined contexts. And I think that's the key right there, just making sure that it's open. Cloud is open. The way we're using data needs to be open. And then I don't see GDPR really being a blockade to any of that kind of innovation.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, it's interesting to note that from the point of view of cloud adoption, the rates continue to increase, and larger and larger enterprises move to the cloud. I think in line with that, the different forms of security that back cloud up get better and better and better. And so the trust is building, right? The trust is building. And actually, a lot of the big issues last year in security were on-prem issues. They weren't cloud issues.
That's absolutely correct. It's a hard paradigm for old schoolers like myself who used to program on mainframes, but your data really is safer in a cloud architecture than on premises. And if there's any IT managers in the room, I'm really sorry about that. Please don't come and hit me after the presentation. But it's because it's secure by design in the cloud architectures. It really is the case.
I'm going to put you both on the spot a little and ask, of all of these technologies, what is the hottest? What's the one that is going to impact everyone here, their lives more than anybody else? Jack, what is that technology?
It will be machine learning, in forms of AI, absolutely.
I think cognitive technologies that are going to enable us to have a much more fluid conversation with networks, with artificial intelligence, not necessarily point and click, not necessarily typing in text, but actually just speaking to interfaces. I know people have had different types of experiences with Alexa, with Siri, some good, some bad, but that technology is getting better, meaning that we're going to be able to interface with intelligent software and solutions much more fluidly, much more in a real-time situation than ever before, and I think that's going to be extremely disruptive in the next years.
Yeah, I mean, just on Alexa, I mean, we saw it on Frank's slide earlier. I think people get excited by the voice piece, which is obviously key and is coming on, and parsing a voice is very important, but what matters about Alexa is the learning that goes on behind it. And you're now having a conversation in a UI. And having a conversational UI is how all UIs will become. No longer will you have the 200 toolbar buttons. You'll have very few toolbar buttons, but you'll have a conversation. And that's a change.
And so maybe that's why the question, which technology, it's machine learning and cognitive interfaces that are going to be making the killer apps of the future. And I think maybe the most important thing from a technology perspective and from a geeky data scientist perspective is the more open systems are, the more we have an open API architecture to build out those killer, distinguishing, innovative apps, the better.
And then just one final question. We've just talked about so many things that all of us in the room have to really embrace and learn that's emerging. What is the most overhyped? And Andrew, I'll start with you and then go to Jack, but what maybe don't we need to pay as much attention to? What is overhyped right now?
It's hard to talk about artificial intelligence without the word overhyped, because there's a lot due to the science fiction movies, due to Elon Musk saying that there's going to be evil overlords, and don't get me wrong, we need to keep a watch on what we're doing with this technology. I certainly agree, but the reality versus when certain things are going to happen, I think it remains overhyped. I don't think we need to pay less attention to it. I think we need to all be very informed consumers of statistics, of machine learning, and of AI. But I think what is overhyped is how fast some of this is going to go. And maybe, I don't know, maybe you want to challenge that, Jack.
I actually welcome our robotic overlords. I'm quite excited to see what they will do. I would probably pick virtual reality as my choice. It comes around every 3 or 5 years. It's still not there. I think the days of office workers wearing headsets is still a long way away. So I pay attention. I used to work in VR, so I'm very aware of it, but I think that's massively overhyped at this point. Augmented reality, yes, not virtual reality.
Thank you very much to our panelists and your insights here. I think this was a great session. Thank you.
Thank you very much.